Alrighty. Welcome to episode 7 of A Marriage of Serpents, an Archov simple communion story. Marriage of Serpents is a story of exploration in a world after dark times, in a Bronze Age, pre-literate Celtic setting full of magic, where the gods have fallen and the very spirit of the earth itself, the dragon, has perished, and fortunately, some other power has returned the life-giving energies of the dragon to the land and calmed the serpent's wrath, the serpent being the sea. This is episode 7, which is the part 2 of The Spiral. And as soon as I figure out how to change shares, I'll show it to you. Yes, there we go. Episode 6, The Spiral. In our last episode, our heroes went to the Clearwater district of the capital city of Kirkjuval, following their contact, Donald O'Lou, who they had dispatched to look into one of his fighting comrade from the Proving Grounds missingness. And after an afternoon passed with his wife, they went off after him, and she went to check some other places, and they got themselves involved in some unfortunate misunderstandings with Mrs. O'Lou, and ended up fleeing through the bog, and then following up the lead that almost certainly Donald also followed, which was to go to the house of Bandinolu, who was one of the warriors who has gone missing, and who personally to the group was reported missing by her husband. Or he was reported missing by his wife, who was left alone with their children and seemed super happy about it. They made their way to the Clearwater district of Kirkjuval, which is near a lake, and into the walled dune compound in which the family of Bandinolu lived. And they came upon the relatively well laid out, small kind of city farmhouse with chickens and sheep and a burro, and they found many curious things. First of all, the house was well built and divided into rooms. The dun was well built and divided into rooms, and the front room seemed extremely well locked, was sealed somehow by magic, and not wanting to draw more attention to themselves by magicking the outside up, or by breaking in, having already been accosted by an extremely unfriendly neighbor woman and her cowed husband, who were standing guard for reasons unknown, probably Donald O'Lou, at the entrance to the small community. They proceeded around the side and let themselves in, and found the center room of the house relatively normal, but the back room was a kind of a work area. Obviously someone in the house, or obviously the household, doesn't ill use their animals, because there was a spinning wheel and all of the other accoutrements you'd need to turn sheep's wool into clothing and rope and other garments. And it was in disarray, and it was kind of stretched out and arrayed, and possibly augmented with spider silk into a kind of web around an open trapdoor in the floor, which they subsequently went down through. They found the the basement of the Olu house somewhat of a wreck, and that the wall of the basement had been blown in from outside. Going through the hole in the basement wall, they went down a tunnel that opened up into a large round stone room with strange markings on the floor, and the eerie glow, blue-white glow of part of a builder structure, making a half doorway in the opposite wall. They explored and found that there was a spinner down there who seemed angry and defensive, and was protecting, sealed in an alcove, a young person, or at least a small person, that was secured to its web but not webbed up, if that makes any sense. And it was clear that the spinner would fight them probably to the death if they approached the figure in the web. And Kian spotted some marks that looked like writing on between the spider's eyes, but wasn't able to make them out in the gloom. The lights of the builder stone grew brighter, and they noticed that there, in the gloom, they could make out a pair of legs sticking out through the kind of mist and half light of the doorway. They pulled the figure out and found something terrible, which was the lower part, that the figure was dead, and that the lower part of the body was that of a boy, maybe 10 or 11. But that the upper part had aged and withered, the part that was through the doorway. With the light spilling through the doorway and the spider menacing them, they chose to step into the next room to find out what the hell was going on, and found themselves in a brightly lit marketplace at dawn, with a sunrise, the likes of which poets sing about happening. To the east, and feeling lightheaded and altogether strange, they stood as the morning market, bustling to some degree but not terribly populated, grew quiet around them under the stalls, and then three stall workers convulsed to their feet and stepped forward, and white robes seemed to blossom down their bodies, and from the blossoming cowls that covered their hands, they all drew with a ring of fine bronze, wavy blades, the type of which are used often by sailors from across the sunburnt sea to the south. And that's where we stopped.
I forgot about that.
Oh, that. All right. So, back in the thick of things. Any questions about that? Did I retcon anything accidentally or potentially on purpose because I'm a bad person?
I don't remember these figures in the market actually drawing knives.
Oh,
yeah, well, I didn't remember that either.
That's what happens now.
Okay, great.
I remember that one of them is Dern, the god of death.
Well, they actually, all three of them look like Thurn, the god of death.
Oh, okay. And I think it was described as a white scythe.
Oh, yeah. One of them had a white scythe like behind him.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, but all three of them look like the white robed god of death. Does anybody?
So where's Sisyphus right now?
That is an excellent question. You're all standing. So the market is a rough circle around a crossroads where four roads come in, and a sort of riotous panoply of semi-permanent and temporary stalls, some with tarps, some without, has been erected, and you're standing impossibly relatively in the middle of the market.
And is this market familiar? Is it the market back at Kerkuval, or is this some unfamiliar marketplace?
No, it looks like the new market in Kerkuval.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of there's a middle part of it that's like closely packed, like artisan stalls. The outer part of the market is where they sell animals and other things that sort of need more room, and it's the sort of tight knit kind of crossroads area that's like the coveted space for the many artisans, craftsmen, and artists of Kirkjuval. And since all of the great families of Two Hall specialize in a craft, and all of them have representatives in Kirkjuval, or at least market interests in Kirkjuval, since it's the largest market and the largest city. There's a dizzying array of goods, and you would see. It's said if you can't find it in the market of Kirkjuval, it isn't to be found. So I'm actually going to grab some water.
So
Any, is that all good?
yeah. So Pharisha wouldn't have a bigger market than this, even then.
Oh, well.
Or does that not count? Because that's an entirely different country.
Exactly.
Okay, got
It's
it.
way over there. And plus now it's inside the mist, and fuck those guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
be
don't know
fair,
if it's even still
those-
a market anymore.
The fuck those guys seem to, be centuries in the making.
Yes. and they perhaps have yet to receive their final fucking, but it's well underway. So having somehow made their way, each of the white-robed figures having made their way out of the stalls and drawn curvy bronze blades.
So I think Cecile is going to shriek at a very high pitch,
Okay.
which Sisyphus should hear and should bring him running. I don't know how long that's going to take, but yeah. There's just this kind of like high keening that goes on for like 2 seconds.
All right.
I'm not going to do it though, because I love you. All of you.
Thank you.
And I feel like with earphones, that's a terrible thing to actually like do and not.
Alrighty. So let's see. I'm actually going to pull Matthew aside for a moment.
Okay.
And I will be. So I'm gonna invite you.
Okay.
Into a room.
Okay,
Let's see. Here we
I'm
go.
going to get something to eat.
Just the pull one or different?
Alrighty. So you should get a request. You should have gotten a request. Join a room called Secret.
No, I still have. And so your alternate universe self, ...
So you should get a pop-up. You should be getting a pop-up from Zoom. No?
on. Yeah.
Be right back. Alrighty.
Okay. So do I need to mute like my other one, or okay?
We're off in a separate room now. They can't hear
Great.
us. Unless they can, in which case, oh well.
Okay.
So your alternate universe self, who was 2 in 1, 2 Cecils in
Yes.
1.
Yeah.
Tell me again about that person,
Um.
quickly.
All right. So the basic thing is they have the power of the Leviathan where they can get big,
Oh yes.
so it can kind of Hulk out. And that is one mythic tag, which is the power of the Leviathan, and I've broken
Oh
it down.
yes, and they've
And-
brought the jewel for the
Yes.
queen.
Yeah, it's like the stone or the emerald of hope.
And where are
so-
they? Where are they from? Was my question.
So they're a monk of the mountains.
Okay, and
Which
where are
is-
they from?
I think the monks of the mountains are like they're an order, kind of like the Maledukes, where they would like take in children and then kind of assign you like a father figure or
Okay.
whatnot, and they would kind of raise children. And it's sort of a Eastern sort of martial arts sort of thing. But he is the keeper of this relic.
So you're from across the Tower Sea.
Yes.
There are kind of Asian-y cultures out across the Tower Sea.
I don't even know if
they're
they're Asian.
fairly weird.
I mean, there was some warrior clans in Europe too. I'm not just the idea that there is a mountain kind of place, and
There's
they-
the Dragon Spine in Maur, which is it's a big mountain that's said to be the spine of the dragon, as it's
Okay.
curled up.
Okay, yeah. So this is in the same world, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same-ish.
Yeah. So he's from far away. He's never even heard of Maur, I don't think, or maybe as a story.
Okay, so you're not from the Dragon Spine. You're from across the Tower Sea.
I think so. Yes.
Okay. So the place you're from is called the One Land.
Okay.
And there are a lot of humans are almost gone in that place.
Okay.
Like there's a handful left, and everything else is. The One Land is run mostly by bug people. Very efficiently.
Like full bug people, or is this sort of like a what's his
Well, kinda
name?
like
A
the- kinda
Maleville kind of
Well,
like
kinda-
people with bug heads.
No, I mean kind of like the pantry or like
Right. Okay.
cats in a human shape.
Yeah.
These are bugs in a sort of vaguely human shape, except
they
not
more like-
all of them are even that human.
So are they more like ants or cockroaches or?
Oh, if
Sure.
God loved anything, if proof of diversity is proof of God's love, boy did he love bugs.
Well, there was that one, the one British anthropologist who said, if creationism is true, then God must have an inordinate fondness for beetles, as they make up 40% of the Earth's species.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Like one species of bugs makes up the biomass of humanity.
All right, that's now a joke. So I follow the monk order is known as the inordinate fondness.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet. I think that might be like God's inordinate fondness for like these monks or whatever, but we can leave that
yeah.
up. Yeah.
So I imagine it being kind of like an ululation then instead of a cry.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So hit the leave breakout room button.
Oh,
Oh, we were away and we were sneaky.
Okay, so Cecile's dead, and
So there's the raising of an ululating cry. La, 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 la.
and then he
Um,
just sort of sits back and tries to look non-threatening.
Dale is looking for another pair of earbuds.
The figures have drawn the blades, but so you kind of there's a sort of hunch and a crying out, and perhaps it's the cry that's given these figures mocking the visage of gone death, or perhaps it is something else. But they sort of they having drawn the blades, they stand sort of blade poking out of folds of white cloth. Yeah, and you can't see faces under the kind of almost dripping long folds of the linen robes, but you can feel their attention burning into you. So as the cry begins to fade, out of the corner of your eye, you catch your shadow moving. So you're facing sort of northwest, and so your shadow is and dawn has just happened, so your shadow is sort of long in your left peripheral vision, and your shadow is quavering and beginning to kind of turn behind you, as though another source of light is casting your shadow other than the sun.
Do I, besides the shadow itself, do I notice a change in the light?
No. Being a learned person, you would recognize this emanation of Thurn, if that's what this is, as it's called the Silent One. And this is the manifestation of Thurn as guardian of the dead. Hello.
Hello. I've been listening.
Great. And so, do you get up to anything?
Yeah, actually, I think Kian takes a step back, and when he kind of has that realization, he glances at the foremost of the three, excuse me, and says, if you are as you appear to be, we mean no disrespect to the dead. We are here to sanctify it, if need be.
The figure sort of directly in front of you kind of tilts its cowled head regarding you.
Is he still moving, or is he stopped? Are they stopped?
So all three of them kind of like almost like sort of flowed out of the surrounding stalls, and it looked like someone moving very fast, somehow changing their clothing while they did it. But then they stopped and drew blades, and they're all standing in almost exactly the same attitude, with the bronze blade sort of coming up out of dripping linen sheaths. Dale, you notice that there is something very strange about Kian's voice. You also you also notice, as the cry from your companion fades, that that your shadow is sort of contracting and sort of bleeding out behind you. Do you do anything, or you just watch?
Are shadows of other things behaving similarly, or
No.
is it only our shadows?
No. Just your shadows.
All three of us, including Cecile.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dale, if you kind of glance around. So do you want to do an investigate and kind of get some information, or you just kind of look around quick and you're going to do something else?
I'm going to notice that, and that helps me make a decision to step forward in front of my companions and open my arms wide.
Okay. You feel the cold morning breeze on the sweat that's gathered in your armpits.
Sweat?
Mm-hmm. And as you do that, you notice that the three figures, that the stalls all have long, pale shadows cast by the sun, by the distant, glorious sunrise. But that the three figures in white have no shadows.
Hmm.
So the cry comes to an end, um, and you kind of glance back, and you do kind of a double take because there's something weird going on back behind you. It looks like the three of your shadows are kind of congealing together and stretching out and growing darker across the booths behind you.
That doesn't sound good.
But you just sort of and so you sort of and as you look back, the three figures in white still not moving are like 3 steps closer to you.
Okay. Are our shadows coming into alignment with the other shadows?
The three of your shadows have moved, have kind of blended together and are sort of stretching out and changing shape, kind of darkening the booths behind you. But they don't seem to be interacting with other shadows in any particular way. Is that what the question is?
No, no.
Okay.
What I was asking is the shadows being cast by everything else, the stalls, the buildings, the whoever's around. Are our shadows coming into alignment with those shadows?
No, your shadows have moved out of their normal being shadows.
Huh.
So the sun is to
currently,
your right, your shadow was to your left, and then it sort of warbled and then kind of pulled in and went woof behind you. And when you glanced back, you saw that your three shadows had merged together behind you and grown much darker, and were forming something up like the fronts of the stalls behind you.
Is that consistent with the three figures in front of us being sources of light?
Maybe. If so, the speed of their light is different than the speed of the sun's light because it took a while.
I begin to. Can I do a thing?
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
I begin to chant, and I want to gather the serpent, but I'm also more curious of whether I can gather the serpent in this place.
Excellent. So, please join me in the secret room.
Oh boy. Okay.
You should get an invite.
I just got an invite, Paul.
Oh,
Here.
but I moved you. No, you don't need to go. That's not the secret room. That's the other room.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Look at us using advanced technology.
Yay.
So, as you reach for the power, as you reach with your voice for the power of the serpent, you immediately turn aside, knowing that's not your way, and you realize that you are a savant in the traditional uses of the power of the voice. And so Kiara, what is the main way that you use the voice?
I think there's a obvious way and a not obvious way.
Okay.
And I think the obvious way is that it can break, like at her command, the reverberations of her voice can shatter even things that are very hard. Actually, and I think like the harder the thing, the more vulnerable it is to her power. But I think the subtle use of the voice is of influence. Which she doesn't advertise.
Okay, so right now I'm calling that All Things Shatter and the Quiet Voice, which is, I think the way the voice of her influence, so my idea is that if she's able to talk with somebody, she can kind of give them a pause or inspiration in the way that the conscience does. And so it seems like it's coming from the inside.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that.
Okay. And so then I think her science is power.
Mm-hmm.
And her tags are, and we can add more later, are alive and dead.
Okay.
Alrighty, so go ahead and click leave room.
Yay.
Trying to figure that out.
Okay, so I think we can kill the rest of the party in 2 rounds.
Well,
just kidding.
You said that part out loud.
Oops. You thought that playing online would keep me from walking out of the room for annoyingly long periods of time. You were wrong.
Now, John, my dice might have something to say about that. They'll go, nope, 1 round it is.
And so a soft mellifluous voice rises in the morning market square. And what happens, John?
By the way, did we pause recording at some point?
Oh, no.
Seems to be recorded.
Okay.
My thing says recording.
Okay, it's not showing on my screen anymore. Maybe because I made the controls always visible. Okay.
ABR.
Always be ready.
Always be recording.
Oh.
That was a big mantra at one of my jobs.
I literally learned that at work.
We were doing blood tests.
Stop. John, what happens? So a mellifluous voice rises and?
I think Kiara steps forward, her raven smooth silk hair flowing behind her, and she says in a voice that seems to rise from the air itself, "There is more than one way to resolve a disagreement," she says, her voice almost kind of a sing-song.
And do you leave a hint of what that is?
I'm trying to get them to respond
Okay.
or say something.
Alrighty. So
Trying to initiate parlay or something.
great. So this sounds like a convince check,
Mhm.
and I think you've got 2 at least.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? There's another pillar demeanor,
Mm-hmm.
and sad
Mm-hmm.
works for this. So roll +3, 2d6 +3.
6 + 3. Bam.
Bam! All right. The figures which, as you step up, near your companion, the figures which you realize now they're like at least 2 large man's steps closer than they were moments ago when you looked down to take the step. And you sort of like a chill simultaneously runs through you as your voice literally fills the air. And you see as you speak, as your words wash over them, your words literally wash over them, and the linen billows with your words, and you see that there's no flesh below the linen, only bones hold the fabric up.
So seriously, where's Sisyphus?
Do and they don't. It seems like they don't respond to that.
Um, you feel their cowls turn toward you, and they're obviously paying a great deal of attention to you now.
Their faces are obscured by the cowls. Is that right?
Yeah, the cowls hang low, and the shade that they cast is sort of preternatural.
Do we? Yeah. So we don't like. It shouldn't be possible, but we can't see flesh, skin, like the chin or the neck
No,
or anything like that.
no, and the hand that's not holding the blade is down, and the long sleeves of the cowl cover it, and the blade is being held in the hand of the fabric, or in a fabric covered hand. But as your words blow across them, you see bony clavicles and the outlines of ribs before the linen falls back. Dale.
I think you feel a little tugging on your clothes, and you hear from down below Cecila's like, "My people have a saying."
So Matthew, you're tall.
I'm tall.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's a tug on your shoulder cloak.
No, that's okay.
Nope.
Let's hear from Dale.
So then nothing. Okay, Dale. Please you be coming with me.
All right.
So you guys are going to get a. Yeah, we'll be back. Oh, go. Okay, so in a world close to Arkhov, but different in certain ways. There's a man much like Claiborne. He has in him the bones of a king. He's easeful and fluid. He knows what path to follow, but not why. He's also different. He's a man and handsome. His royalty is obvious. He has the power to change, but not the way Mud does. What is he called? What are his powers like? What gift has he brought to the queen of the Morning Kingdom?
His name is King Abudalon. And he has brought to his fellow monarch a gift of a fulgurite from the deep deserts.
Oh.
And this is lightning caught in the earth. Lightning has struck the earth and solidified into glass.
Yeah.
It is taking the form of a rough tube of sand and fused sand and glass. But in this instance, the lightning has stayed within and is shining and crackling within the tube of glass.
Oh. Okay, so King Abudalon is from the sun-blessed lands south of the Sunburnt Sea, from the desert kingdoms, the bright desert kingdoms. All right, and King Abudalon has the power of change. But what's that? The power of changing what?
Yeah, I didn't really prepare that part.
That's okay. You just make something up. He could have the ability to cause other people to change shape, perhaps into something that reveals their true selves temporarily. He could have the power to change the weather. He could have the power to change the stars.
In Arcad, there is the art of the word.
Sure.
And I believe there's an art of blood.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. He uses the art of the flesh.
Okay, so he's a sorcerer of some kind.
Yes. And
he walks the path of flesh, as Arkhov people would say.
Yes, he does. And that is how he doesn't wear a crown, but his head is formed into a crown.
Oh, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah. And is it possible, do you think?
Absolutely. So he has some power for self-physical alteration.
Yes, and it can be done on the fly.
Okay. Is there some is this somehow connected to like the beasts of the desert?
In the desert, there are great ribs and tusks that curve up from the sand from great creatures of long ago, bleached white in the sun. And he can transmute parts of his body into those forms. And so his forearms may become great, sharp tusks that can act as both weapon and shield.
Alrighty. So there's like physical alteration, white tusks, um, so maybe three of his tags are like physical alteration, and then horn and bone are two other tags.
Okay.
And then is there a, so that's sort of like a what he does it with. And then is there, so often sorcerers in Cahal or in Mauer have a path and a science. So so the voice and, you know, the science of letters, or the science of power, or so is there like so this is flesh,
Mm-hmm.
and is there another one which is blood, maybe?
Maybe something more subtle.
Scent?
Interesting.
It could
Perhaps,
be
yes.
it could be a sort of influence set.
Yes, that would reach deep emotions.
Yeah.
It could be empowering or terrifying. Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna say scent is the other one, and then I'm just gonna do three tags in there, which are smells of wonder, smells of terror, and smells of strength.
That was a strong one. I'm sorry.
Okay, back we go. Oh, and so Desert Kingdom, so you're sort of swarthy, Arabic-looking, some cool
he's
way of
fucking
dressing.
hot.
Alrighty, back. So go ahead and hit leave room, and we'll
Okay.
pop back in.
Okay. Let's see. Leave room.
But again, it was like a browser-based interactive adventure, but with RPG mechanics, which means that you would just basically click the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I was just like, oh, what if I just want to read a story?
Yep.
You know?
So as the as the robed figures reveal their gauntness, and they seem moved by your voice but remain still, as though that is the movement that you provoked. You you feel almost like a impossibly like a tug from your shadow, as though your dark shadow is kind of pulling you back. And you turn to look, and your gaze passes over the man to your left, and the moment of the sense of alienness is immediately subsumed in his unique appearance, which is, Dale, you are now down in the Brady Bunch of me.
The fact that this man's head is actually formed into the shape of a crown should be revolting, but his spectacularly handsome face makes it exotic rather than disgusting.
So you mean like he has little flesh triangles?
Yes,
or?
it's as if his skull goes straight upward from where he would wear the brim of a hat, goes straight upward and forms points of a crown.
And I don't care how attractive he is. That's a little off-putting.
I'm imagining like honey-colored almond eyes, like the shadings of a dark beard on like dark olive-colored skin.
Oh, I figured he had quite dark beard, and
Okay.
it's quite pointed and precisely trimmed.
And how is he dressed?
White and cream robes with exquisite filigree at the cuffs and collar and placket, and with a similar placket going down the back. The fabric is of the very highest quality.
And just as you, Kiara, know that is King Abudalan,
Mm.
King Abudalan, you know that that is the sorceress Kiara.
You spell King Abudalon.
Abudilon.
Cool. I think as I kind of realign to this new consciousness, there's a sort of edge that creeps out of her voice, still soft and supple, but she says, "All things end and all things shatter, but when all things die, even death may die." And she looks very intently at the one in front, and in her mind is preparing herself to shatter the clavicle.
Okay. As you do that, as you focus on the one in front of you, you're aware that the two in your peripheral vision are not there anymore.
Were they that spread out?
Well, they were definitely farish apart.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right, Matthew, what are you doing?
So these things have looked pretty clear like they don't want to talk and aren't really human, right? So I'm going to use my mythic power of Leviathan, and I'm going to essentially like bulge out, and my robes are kind of built for this, where they kind of part. They can kind of they're sort of loose to begin with, and they sort of just part, and then
What kind of robes are they? What do they look like?
So I think the thing is they're sort of this light lavender. So they're very distinctive. People can kind of recognize one of these monks of inordinate fondness, as they call themselves.
Is he wearing purple shorts?
He is not. Wouldn't that be better?
No.
So yeah, and he just sort of pops out of them as this large 9-foot, vaguely reptilian sort of visage. Yeah, and I think there's kind of this sort of hissing sort of I did not come to fight, but if you have come to die, or he who has come to die, please step forward.
And I think as you swell up and in your skin flushes an inhuman color, then there's a visible gem burning at your breast. And what does it look like?
So it's an emerald, and it's large. It's less large on this creature, but for a normal person, it would be about palm sized. And it's just sort of, and it just has a pretty classic, like emerald cut, kind of the square, and then just kind of goes. And I think you see like the basic cut of the emerald, and then it like extends a little bit into the flesh itself. So it's almost like the cut like continued into the flesh, where it kind of repeats the pattern, and that slowly fades out.
So as you grow massive and turn, you realize that the figure, as you, and I think there's a sickening crack of like bones dislocating and relocating and flesh shifting and popping into new sockets.
Mm-hmm.
And as you turn to deliver the final terrifying words of your transformation to the white robed figure, you realize that it's moved, and it's like 5 paces more to your right than it was a moment ago, somehow without moving. And as you finish your imprecation, you hear that and then somehow you're aware you can hear all 3 of them muttering back some of Kiara's words. All things end and all things die, and we are those that wait there.
They just hear a little mental wait a little longer.
And out of the corner of your eye, you realize that your shadow too has kind of pulled out thin, and your 3 shadows have joined together, and it's like it's like a common black ant stood up on its hind legs, and then its shadow was projected by a tiny light onto a wall. Because there's a figure maybe 5.5 feet in height that's all sort of shadows and outline, although you can tell it's 3-dimensional. Incongruously, and it has many arms, although they're sort of hard to pin down. But there also seem in its sort of hard to see arms, there you see that there are and are not blades. There are sort of like blades kind of becoming and unbecoming in its 4 raised arms.
In our shadow, our combined shadow.
Yeah, so this is what your shadows have combined to become. And as it's doing that, it reaches out, and with its 4 arms, and when it reaches a certain point, like a white wave becomes visible that runs all around the 3 of you in a circle through the 3 figures standing there. So now the 3 white-robed figures, you can see that they have formed like a circle of pale white light around you. And it looks like the shadow is kind of, as it touched it, it was extended, but you can see that the light is shrinking and the shadow is sort of trembling as it's being pushed inward. As the circle, obviously the circle is closing around you. Did that make sense? You look baffled, Dale.
Are the figures within? They haven't melted into this white light ring.
No,
they're still standing, right?
It's like yes. Imagine there's a circle. Imagine there's like a white plastic sheet hung in a circle, and they're sort of standing in the sheet.
Okay.
Do you? So where do you put your attention Matthew, and that you know your two companions' names, and they know your name, which is?
I think, because Dr. John, I think there's a slightly different thing to this.
I would
I think
suggest Ki if you don't have a word.
I'm thinking he just goes by Hope.
Oh, okay. Hope. Okay. Great. So are you attending to the shadow, or are you attending to the white figure that you were gonna pulverize?
No, he's going to pulverize the white figure.
Okay.
We asked them nicely to explain themselves. They're doing something to our shadows. Like, ultimately, he is the keeper of, the Emerald of Hope, and he can't wait too long. He has to be careful. So if someone's trying to take it, he has full rights to act. So should I roll an assault?
Sure. So you're gonna how do you assault the white figure?
He just charges forward,
And
he's going to attempt to basically just sort of pound the guy into the ground.
Okay.
Or whatever it
So
is
you-
into the ground. Yep. So I'm guessing he has 3 tags for that, which are Earth's Momentum, Great Strength, and Razor Claws. The weakness for that, I was thinking, was collateral damage, if you ever want to use that.
Okay.
So, / roll. Oh, wow. That's a bad roll.
And the news is even worse because it's actually 2d6 plus 3. So taking the first 2 dice, that's 4 plus 3, which is 7.
Okay.
All right. So you raise up and rake the air, coming down with a ponderous strength that literally shakes the earth. The small pebbles littering the dry earth in the market circle all jump simultaneously, like a child hitting an unwelcome game. But the figure, as it did before, in between you raising your head to the sky and bringing the strength of your arching body down, and the impact has shifted to the side, and you find as you finish the crash down, that its blade is waiting for you there in the empty space where it was standing. So I need you to face danger.
Okay.
So what kind of skills or tricks would a monk of the inordinate fondness have to avoid a knife strike?
So I think his big thing is it's one of his normal powers, but I was thinking it was like peak physical conditioning, being a monk and kind of in with that. So I think the 2 that would come from that are Tumbler and Agile.
Well, you're not going to be able to tumble. You're too big and too not in that situation.
Okay.
But I like agile. That sounds like a broad tag.
Okay. So 2d6 plus 1.
I mean, and I might even throw dodge in there. Dodge
Okay.
is the sort of thing a monk would learn how to do.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say 2d6 plus 2.
So 10.
Alrighty. Face danger. Yes, on a 10 plus, you fend off the effect. And so the figure sort of like was there, and and then it was here holding its blade up so that you would come down on it. And how did you avert that danger with your agility and your dodging?
So I think the blade kind of comes, and I have like the like claws on my hand. So I think I kind of reacted quickly, and I just sort of like pinched the blade and kind of stopped its momentum. And then as he kind of like twisted it.
No, so what was happening is he basically just stepped out of the way and put the blade so you'd impale yourself on it.
Right.
So catching the blade is not going to help because you're crashing down. And there's no way to stop you crashing down, but so you can just twist out of the way here.
Yeah, I think he just kind of does like a somersault to the side away from him.
Okay.
And kind of rolls off.
Great. So
was that
the ground a second time?
That was a success that he rolled with complication, though, right? Initially.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't take any damage.
No. I don't mean for the face danger. I mean the.
Oh, we froze.
You froze for a second there, John.
The attack you rolled a 4.
Right, +3, which is 7.
Yes. Which is a failure.
Which is a success.
No.
7 is the success with complication? No? Okay.
Oh, was that like an 8 to 10?
And partly no, because I have some trickery going on.
Okay.
That's fair.
Alrighty, so gentle, your majesty and your ladyship. Oh, you're breaking up.
Yep. Yeah, John, you're a little crunchy.
Maybe turn off your video temporarily. It usually helps.
I think I'm going to reset the router. Do you want to go ahead, Dale?
Okay.
Don't use your shadow power on the router anymore. It's bad for it.
Okay. You're back.
Go, Dale. Go.
So King Abudalon is holding in his hands about a 1.5 foot long tube with a cold blue light shining from the open ends of it. He's going to turn to face the nearest white figure and its knife, and hold this tube at the ready.
Okay.
So basically, I'm organizing a defense.
Yes. Okay. So then, as the great. So then, that you raise the tube, and the blue light, kind of the blue gleam of the trapped lightning, sort of fills the area around you, and the figure just reforms out of the blue light directly in front of you. But not like as an apparition, just there, made of blue light.
Okay.
And its blade is coming across in a slash at your throat.
Okay. With a similar quickness, the tube is raised up so that the blade will actually go into the end of it, and this apparition's metal blade is going to plunge into temporarily frozen lightning.
It's slashing, though. It's trying to slash her throat. So I don't know how that's physically possible.
You think it's going hand first?
Yeah, I mean the way you slash with a blade is that you go like this. He's not trying to
It's
poke
not
you.
a thrust. Okay.
Yeah, he's trying to slash. So, but I mean you could bring the tube up and try to catch the underside of the blade as you go by as it comes for you. You know.
Yeah, I'm going to use the tube to parry
Okay,
and knock the blade away.
great. And is I assume King Abutalon is a swordsman?
He's the swordsman.
Okay. Um, great, and we'll treat the fulgurite as a that's a big fulgurite. We'll treat the fulgurite as a resource for that.
Okay.
So that's 2d6 plus 2.
Okay. That's an 8.
Oh. All right. So with an 8, you take the status, but with a -1 tier. So you deflect the fulgurite and or you raise the fulgurite and the knife wielder just reforms on the other side of the fulgurite and slashes across your lower face.
Hmm.
So you take a status of uh, Blood Dance 2. And the cut sort of pulls your blood, and it sort of fans out away from you, pattering discreetly to the dirt.
Hmm.
Um,
So he gave my beard a trim.
pretty much.
Hmm.
Oh, you know what? Since you were basically not acting, we'll reduce the tier by 2. So have it just be what did I say? The blood is free, right? Or the blood dance?
Blood Dance too.
Blood
You
dance.
said blood dance too.
Yeah. So let's make it Blood Dance 1.
Okay. Okay.
Alrighty. So that leaves Kiara.
Yeah. So are there still three of them?
Yep.
And can I see all 3, or can I only see one?
You can only pretty much see one at a time. Although as you kind of look to the right, you see a kind of there's a and a sort of clash of confrontation, and out of the corner of your eye, and as you look back, it's right in front of you. Because
I
the
see.
circle just went.
I think she steels herself and says, "All things shatter." And as she says that, it comes out softly, but ends in a thunderbolt.
Oh,
And she is actually trying to break the blade completely, sunder it.
okay. Awesome. It looks like it's it looks like the blade is coming down and up like to gut you.
Okay. How many tags can I use for that?
Oh, well.
I think one of her tags is the harder it is, the easier to shatter, like I was saying earlier.
Sure.
So are we looking at +2 or +3?
Oh, I think 3. So you have all things shatter, The harder they are, the easier they break, and dead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So as the blade comes up, you unleash the thunderbolt of your voice, and there's a and the tiniest of bronze fragments go flying away from you in all directions. And as that happens, all three figures the other two figures, their blades kind of ghost out, and then suddenly the robes are empty, and they all kind of collapse and sort of blumph and billow down to the ground.
Hope walks over and pokes one of them and then sort of holds it up by one of the claws, kind of looking inside, verifying.
I pivot to
the ant's shadow, having been cut off from you by the closed white circle, spends its fading strength behind you to say, "The story almost has you. Run." And then as it fades out, it becomes a complex circular knot, and then fades out entirely.
And it said the story almost has you?
Mm-hmm.
And do we not have shadows now?
Oh no, you do. They're stretched out by the sunrise.
Oh, good.
What?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Let's see. It's 8 o'clock. Why don't we take a quick 5-minute breather and come back?
Sounds good.
Good.
Alrighty.
Cool.
See you guys soon.
All right. Who was poking at the linen?
I think that was Matthew's character.
That was Hope.
Yep.
Okay. So the enormous hulking figure leans down and sort of rakes at the linen with slate gray razory claws, and I think probably the hulkingness is beginning to fade, and the robes seem to be closing back over the man's figure.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you poke at it, the linen is sort of like spilling open of itself,
Mm-hmm.
and like turning into a tight woven wool canvas, until as you kind of open it all the way up, there's no evidence of like the complicated ends of the sheafs, or the intricate folds and stitching of the cowl. There's no belts, there's no weapon sheath, there's no bones, there's no nothing. It ends up just sort of unrolling into like a wool tarp, like a tight woven wool tarp that somebody would have over their booth.
He sort of nods, picks up the three, and kind of throws them all over his shoulders. Heads back to the other two. Gives them a low bow.
When oh, sorry, go ahead.
As he's gathering the wool, the other two of you sort of regathering yourself, look around and you realize that you're not being watched. That the stall keepers, although they may have paused when the white linen Thurin figures took shape and moved toward you, that's over for them, and they have continued setting up their stalls and talking to one another and shouting greetings and questions and insults quietly.
Okay. Do I have a nasty gash on my chin on one side, and is the blood in a red, a crimson stripe down the front of my robes?
So as you reach for it, you realize that a piece of your beard is missing, but there isn't a cut. And you look and there's no blood. And so your blood dance 1, we're going to convert into faded 1. But as you rub at it, the skin of your cheek there's a numbness there. And there's like a little bit of like a coldness on the inside of your mouth on that side.
Mm-hmm.
And like an eerie
like Novocaine?
Yeah, or like you'd held cloves against your cheek on the inside, and everything had gone kind of tasteless and numb.
Mm-hmm.
You're muted, Matthew.
I know. I wasn't active, so sometimes I mute it and then I breathe a little harder.
I thought I saw you say something.
No.
When the 6-limbed, 4-limbed, 2-limbed, whatever limbed shadow faded away and said, "Run." Did I have an inkling? Did I feel anything?
No.
If I were to look around for an exit, do I see an obvious exit?
No. There are kind of the 4 relatively straight paths leading out of the market's center. And you see sort of stalls, and down one of them you see someone's driving some sheep in this direction.
What was I doing before this moment?
You were going through
my
the market
mind.
on your way to the crown to give your gift to the queen.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And
Are
my
there-
companions were with me on this journey, or
Do I see any stalls selling woolen products?
Sure.
Okay, he's going to walk over with the 3 woolen things and try and hawk them.
Okay.
Nice.
I imagine he gets a couple coins.
Sure.
And if you guys are still around when he kind of turns around, he mentions people always think that just because you take a vow of poverty means that, that like you're not looking for ways to make money. He kind of jingles some coins. It just means if you get a lot of it, you have to give it away. But, and he kind of flips a coin up into the air. I, for one, like not going hungry.
well, I always thought that if you took a vow of poverty, it meant you weren't very good with money.
I like you.
The copper coins are impressed on one side with a solar disc, and on the other side with a knotwork crown.
I expected some sort of complication, but those did not seem like ordinary bandits.
No. Seem to be agents of death. But
Or
not particularly persistent ones. He sort of absentmindedly kind of touches under his shirt, and there's a slight. If you look very closely, you can tell that there's a slight lump that he's kind of hiding. I don't know why death would be after me.
Well, death is after all of us, but why now?
I mean,
Well,
I eat well. I exercise. I feel like now's a little soon. Sort
I'm
of
sure-
stretching out.
I'm sure Theron has heard that many times.
I think he sees a vendor and like flicks one of the coins to him and then takes one of like the fried little potato things that he's got. He's kind of just munching on it on the stick. Want some? And he kind of like holds out some to the. I'm guessing both of you kind of look sort of regal and like nice, correct? We've got a king and like a high sorceress kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of a
So Kiara,
run of the mill monk.
You're a sort of like nobility by acclamation. So the great sorcerers of Kahal are as much Charna, as much lords as landed lords are. And how are you dressed?
I think she's dressed with dyed robes, which I'm sure would have been extremely expensive.
Especially if it's a really dark,
Mhm.
vivid color.
I'm imagining her. So there's a color called Sagart, which is a sort of, it's royal purple, and it only comes from these small inedible periwinkles, small inedible seashells or sea snails that grow that live in the shallows off of Nile.
Is that the Phoenician purple?
It's the Phoenician purple. I think it's from plant.
I think it's from the sea fish. That
Oh,
was
it
the
is.
big thing. Yeah.
It is, okay. So it's a similar, yeah. It's a dark purple.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
her robe is worth a small fortune and would itself be a worthy prize of theft if it wasn't for the fact that wearing it would warn anybody that crime would be punished very, very severely.
We pass a stall that is for the cutting of hair and the trimming of facial hair. And it'd take a few minutes to have them even up my beard.
okay. With the barber spends some time with a strop holding his bronze blade, his long square bronze blade, and then he sort of like almost like a thresher would with wheat, sort of like the lines of your beard. He does none of the fine and glorious things with oil and fire that your people would do.
Sufficient, though. And of course, as is the tradition here, upon entering the stall, we do some rituals of the offering and accepting of hospitality, which allows the customer to relax when there is a razor blade at his throat.
Right. Exactly. You stand outside the stall, perusing a large square segmented off by decorated cloths, selling many such cloths and carpets, and a few garments made of flax and other materials. And eventually, you see a woman with a sort of a broad-rimmed hat and a relatively simple tunic, belted with yellow leather, sort of standing in a nearby stall, watching you.
As I was saying before we were so rudely interrupted, this is a harsh land, and the people of it have made their religion quite harsh. Nearly everything is forbidden to them, other than rugs and tapestries. And so all of their passion and wildness is thrown into the weaving of the rugs and tapestries, making them the best in all the lands.
And therefore, making these simple dyed and pressed things pale and uninteresting to you.
Yes. And clearly not worth what they are asking.
The blonde woman in the simple tunic adjusts her hat and makes an obvious beeline for you.
Though.
Hang on, what's it?
Yeah, just greeting. Hello.
Chorny, she says, bowing slightly from the waist, holding her hat. She's saying basically, lords. I am a simple woman, but I have friends from out of town, and I've been told to watch out for marvelous strangers such as yourself. My name is Runda, and I wonder if you'd like to come with me and have some tea, perhaps. You all know that Runda in the language of Maor means secret.
I'm afraid that I'm on very important business.
Well, it's only one look at you by anyone in this place, and they would be certain of that.
Who told you to look out for people like such as us?
She, in a move that's clearly meant to be interpretable as evening out the pleats in her tunic where it goes into the belt, she draws her hands across the yellow leather belt at her waist. It doesn't particularly mean anything to you.
But she says nothing?
Right.
Your hospitality is welcome, but I've been charged with visiting the Queen before anything else in the city.
Oh, well. Visiting Queen Aya is always quite an experience. and something done best rested.
Or perhaps if that's the case, it would be best to rest right afterwards. If it is so taxing. The monk kind of looks at the two of you.
I feel as if we should say something like, "The green antelope sings only when alone," or "The rain has been terrible lately."
She reaches up and taps one of her top canine teeth. And she turns back, and you see that.
Quick question.
And hang
Does
on one
she
sec.
have?
Hang on one sec. She taps one of her canines, and then she turns back and looks down the row of stalls, and you see that there are timbers every 5 or 6 stalls or so, that are clearly like markers for the market and things you can hang banners from and whatever, lights and things. But interestingly, you notice that there are a set of what look like wolves' teeth, like driven in as a crown around each of the timbers.
So about my question, how many canines does she have? Like the normal number for human, or?
Yeah, she has 2.
Okay, great.
This doesn't seem to be ringing a bell for us. The wolf's teeth.
Mm-mm.
Do I feel an absence though? Like I should know this?
No.
I kind of blink blankly at her. I'm afraid I'm still at a loss. I don't think you've answered my question.
You've noticed several large men in dark tunics with broad belts, all with a shillelagh hanging from the left side of the belt, and they must be some kind of security or watchers or something, community representatives at the market or market employees. And he, you see one of them nearby, and he turns and he sees the 3 of you and the blonde woman, and he makes a beeline for her. And she looks at you, and she gives you a kind of like look, and then he's sort of there in front of her. All right, now off with you. No bothering customers at the market. You've been told more than once. And she's like, but I just, and he like picks the shillelagh up off his belt and raises it menacingly.
No, officer. It's all right. We approached her.
But I find that very unlikely.
We're new.
Off with you now. You and your sisters need to stay away. You hear me? And she's backing away quickly. Of course. And she kind of looks past him. It's Runda, and you can find me in the market, she says as she turns, and he's like, I'll find you in the market. He takes several big steps toward her, and she turns and picks up her skirts and runs.
The monk gives a bow and kind of remembers that. One more time. What's the name?
Runda.
Runda.
It's a secret.
Do either of you have the feeling that the story is trying to catch us and that we should run?
Do I? I mean, I remember hearing that, but
Up to you.
I wasn't just imagining that. I heard that, right?
I heard it as well.
Run where? What story?
The tall man returned. I apologize for the intrusion. These ones, they're a plague of rats in the market. They're nonsense. You'll be strangers then, and I direct you anywhere in particular.
Could you tell me more about that woman and her sisters?
Oh, I'd rather tell you about my bunions.
Well, I
How
wouldn't.
are your bunions?
Well,
I glare at Hope.
on my left foot, you see. It all began
Oh,
several
I
years ago.
get some there too. You know, sometimes I put just a little bit of dried grass right there, and it sort of shifts your foot a little bit. It helps on long journeys. If you're going more than 20 miles a day, it's a must. What were you saying, sorceress?
Oh, you'd be the lady. You'd be the lady Chiara of Cahal.
That'd be me.
Well, although I'm no greeter and I'm no representative of the Queen of Morning, allow me to welcome you to our city if you have yet to be welcomed.
Thank you very much. I was asking you a question.
Oh yes, about my bunions then.
No, before that, please.
Oh,
The lady, Runda, and her sisters.
oh. I would expect the Queen is expecting you. I can't imagine you'd want to spend time with them.
I just wanted to know who they were.
Oh, they're a group that calls themselves the Yellow Strangers.
And why do they call themselves that?
Well, you'd have to ask one of them.
Why do they seem to be so much trouble for you?
Well, they're about some strange business, and they're constantly waylaying others. I mean, they're more of a plague on the city than the Bandit King. And he points to a large interestingly paper poster plastered to the side of one of the booths, and it has an uncanny likeness of Donald O'Loo on it.
Huh.
The Bandit King?
Whatever artist drew it is quite cunning, but there's like a weird knotwork in his beard in the drawing, which is sort of unusual, and he of course has an eye patch over his right eye. I'm sorry, what was the question there, ma'am?
She shakes her head. Never mind that. I was curious. Waylaying, you're being metaphorical. They're not actually bandits, are they?
Well, not in the sense of the Bandit King, no. But they'll waylay you all the same. They'll bring you into their weird little public houses with their honey cakes and their mead, and they'll tell you stories, and before you know it, you'll be dyeing your hair blonde. Then you'll be back out here as one of the strangers waylaying people in the streets.
Ah, so they are like those who come to one's door in order to tell you about their god.
What terrible place do you come from where people do that?
What wonderful place do you come from where they do not.
Well, welcome to the Sunrise Kingdom.
Your welcome is appreciated, friend.
Of course. Oh, I think we've had some word of your coming. You're the great shape-shifting sorcerer king from the south, is it?
Yes. Please do not let my reputation be frightening to you. I am quite mild in manner and do not kill unless necessary.
Oh,
And he
good.
smiles a winning smile.
Right.
So you
'cause
don't turn into a lion and eat people then?
I have not done that.
in some time. The monk mentions and then sort of chuckles.
And you yourself are quite queer,
Oh,
he says.
thank you.
to the monk.
And then I think he leans over to the sorceress and says, "What does that mean?"
I think he says that you're strange.
Oh. Oh, well, why, thank you.
Aren't your feet cold without any shoes like that?
You get used to it.
He looks down.
And he does have the sandals usually, so. But
I'm
Well, I suppose it is a dry and beautiful day. We've had a number of those lately.
well, there has been nice.
well. I'm actually. It seems that you've been informed ahead of our arrival. We're here to see the Queen. Is she expecting us then?
Well, I couldn't speak for the Queen now, could I? Oh, you'd be welcome, I'm certain, to go up to the crown.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
My friends, I believe it's this way. And he gestures the wrong direction and begins to lead them in the wrong direction.
I do apologize, Your Foreign Majesty, but you're going north toward the dark woods there.
Would it be that way?
It's the big hill. You can't miss it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was intending to go the long way. And I wink at him.
Of course.
All right. Well, thank you again. Keep your feet dry.
That's essential. All right then. May the road rise up to meet you as you go.
You as well.
I think I whisper over to you as we're walking. Was that like a compliment or was that like an insult?
I'm sorry?
The road rising up to meet you.
It's a blessing.
Oh. Because it kind of sounds like he's willing us to walk uphill, which is a bit tiring.
Well, the road is rising up to meet you, not before you.
Yes, but if it was before you, you would be walking downhill. I just ask because I come from a land with lots of ups and downs, and
She gives a tired, amused sigh, which seems strangely familiar.
you seem more at home. This must have been less of a journey for you. I suppose I do come from the other side of the world. Where are you from?
Kahal.
Oh, excellent.
And we've been journeying together some time? Haven't we?
Sounds
She's-
familiar, and yet I'll admit I don't recall at the moment. I think I woke up this morning a little scatterbrained. I know each of you, but I forgot when we first met.
Conveniently, at that very moment, you emerge from the market and come in sight of the crown. And it seems both familiar and unfamiliar. It is a promontory of earth on which an earthwork dome has been built. But out of the dome, rising, there is a vast yew tree reaching up toward the heavens, heavy with its bright hallucinogenic fruit, the fruit of memory, as it is called. And you can see that the central trunks of the yew tree have been woven cunningly together to make a tower that rises up from the top of the dome, pointing, as it seems to, toward the middle of the unfamiliarly blue sky. And a very kind man runs up and brings you a treat. Lowering your gaze, you see that something is wrong, but nonetheless, you see that the crown at maybe 200 paces of a small person distance from the rock promontory, there is a circle of massive yew trees, all of whose branches are intertwined. And maybe at eighths around the compass rose of the circle, there are openings, person-sized openings between the branches, and there are stone pillars carven with words, and each surmounted by a wolf's skull.
They're into dead wolves here. Wonder if they have a surplus.
With the market sounds diminishing behind you, you can now hear the soft quirking of ravens from somewhere inside the yew trees.
The monk accepts one and extends his arm and tries to give a crow caw. Wondering if these are kind of just, do they live here, or are they part and parcel? Are they semi-tame?
You extend your arm and we go like caw caw.
Mm-hmm. From what I've heard of their language.
The large hook-beaked raven that you gesture at sort of leans forward in response and falls out of the yew tree, spreading its heavy blue-black wings. It glides as soundless as the approach of death across the intervening space, and alights on on your wrapped arm.
Mhm.
It sort of turns and regards you with its whiteless black eyes,
He sort of turns to match its
black
gaze.
pupilless eyes. If you're going to curse in someone else's language, it would be best if you did it correctly. The raven says.
He bows to it. My apologies. I am somewhat new to your language. I have a gift, but there are not many teachers of the tongues of the Corvids, where I come from. I must say you speak our language very well.
No, it is a shadowed and simple thing.
Are we hearing this in
Oh, yeah.
English or in our
Absolutely.
native language? Okay.
In the language of Mauer.
And how did you first come to interest yourself in the simple tongue?
When the queen brought the sunrise back to the land, we came to find out who had done it and why. And we decided to remain.
I got the who. What was the answers to the why question?
Which one of the two of you is nearer?
I think I was talking a little bit more. Well, I don't know. Maybe the king?
John, Dale, which one of the two of you is closer?
I would be. I'm tending to walk in between and in front of the two of them.
So the raven kind of hunches its wings forward around it, like a cloak, and it turns and looks at you, King of Butelon, and sort of bounces its head at the monk whose arm it's perched on in an unmistakable "what's with stupid" gesture.
I sort of shrug. You did say you came to learn the answer to that question.
Obviously, it was the queen.
No. Well, that's not what he asked. He didn't ask who. He said the second question, the why. He assumed it was the queen. No, the why question. Because he said there was two questions.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying she did it
Paul, I'm
because
understanding you.
All right.
The raven is being ravenish.
Okay. So are you saying that the queen herself could not help but do that? Being the queen? Was it one answer for two questions?
We arrived after the darkness had drawn back when the queen returned the dawn to us. That is the what and the why.
I suspect the answer.
The raven raises one wing and points tentatively at the sun hanging above the eastern horizon.
I suspect that the answer you are trying to extract is that it is obvious that it is better that it should be so. And that's why they stayed.
The raven's head snaps almost all the way around and sort of looks back. At first, Kiara, it seems like it's looking at you, but then you realize that the all black eyes make it difficult to see exactly until it cocks its head sort of back and forth, and you realize it's looking past you. And then a moment later, you hear a distant "oh, oh, oh." And then somewhere else, further away, you hear a chorus of answering cries.
Does it sound more wolf-like or more dog-like?
It sounds like wolves.
The sun was rising not so long ago, right?
Mm-hmm. The sun is still rising.
Yeah. So that's weird, right?
They'd be up late.
Those seem to be the fortunate ones. They sound as if they still have their teeth.
The raven snaps back around to look at you. And its bony shoulders shake with laughter.
And what are you called in your tongue?
It is something among us to ask and say a name.
If it's too much trouble, I know some people in my land have one name and then another they give to acquaintances. So that if someone looks for them and asks after them, others might know. I'm known as Hope.
For now, you can call me Red Talon.
Red Talon. Thank you.
Why have you come to the crown?
I've been summoned. I heard the Queen is in need of assistance that I can provide.
Oh, yes.
Bring her a
Queen has
gift.
many enemies.
We hope to be friends.
The king is doing something fast and intricate with his fingers at the moment.
Okay.
Three of you. Interesting.
The raven regards the three of you, and then it sort of pushes your arm down and takes flight and flies back over and lands on one of the wolf skulls. And you can see that that ravens seem to be mustering themselves out of the yew trees.
Thank you, my friend. If you ever wish to engage in wordplay again, I should love to learn more of your tongue.
Come sometime, climb into the tree. We will teach you the unkindness.
The king walks over to the tree where Red Talon is and tosses
It
something
actually landed
small.
on top of there are two like stone plinths, each crowned with a wolf skull, and it landed on the wolf skull.
I thought the skulls were mounted on the trees.
Oh no, they're
okay.
just two plinths.
At any rate, I walk over to Red Talon and toss something small and sparkling up into the air where it can catch it with its beak if it wishes.
So it as it sees that, it leaps off the wolf skull, sort of hulking into the air for a moment, and you do see that one of its small claws is a sort of deep, almost bloody red.
Mhm. Does it catch the thing?
It does, and so it kind of leaps into the air and hangs there for a moment, and as it's catching the bauble, Kiara, it's looking at you, and it sort of quarks something as it catches the bauble, and then it kind of falls out of the air like a black dart and goes skimming away from you over the road and then over the green grass of the fields expanding away, and then like a horizontal black rain, ravens fall out of the yew trees and skim in waves after that raven, after Red Talon. What did you put in her beak?
It's a small silver necklace of very fine chain that I have quickly balled and knotted and twisted and tied into a very, very complex knot. It should give that raven hours of interest.
Okay.
And it's shiny.
Nice. Nice. Weirdly, as the ravens sail away, as you turn to glance back toward the crown and the yew trees, there are words written on the plinths, and you can just read them.
Oh, I thought you said I couldn't read them.
You couldn't read them from the distance. You could see marks on them, but now that you've come closer.
What did they say?
They both say, if you are not the wolf, speak your name.
I am Hope.
Kiara of Galaga.
A Boodalon of the Hotlands.
The hottest parts being mostly between here and...
It's all hot, darling.
There's a sort of sheen, like a ripple in the dampness of the stones that runs up toward the wolf skulls, but doesn't quite get there as you speak your names. But nothing else seems to happen.
Hope sort of takes his shirt and almost suggestively sort of like pulls it down and flips out the emerald.
Okay.
So that it shines.
In case you missed it, between the plinths there's a sort of person-sized opening in the complex yew tree branches that leads in among the yew.
And he'll go through it.
Okay.
Sure.
You walk through. There's a couple places. Whoever is the tallest of you, probably Boodalon. There is a great deal of bobbing and weaving, and but the other two of you make your way easily among the branches of the yew trees, noting that that the little red jewels of the yew berries hang always within reach. And there's a sweet smell, like as you move in among the trees, like recently crushed raspberries.
Mm.
And as you're, it's obvious once you're a ways in that there's a space beyond the yew trees, and you're getting close to it. And as you do, you find your sort of your mouth watering, and those yew berries are looking pretty good.
Are yew berries edible?
Well,
Are the yew
they're
berries
called,
the same as the fruit of memory that you were
yes,
mentioning? Oh,
yes, they're called the fruit of memory.
Hmm.
And they kill ruminants. So wandering animals die when they eat yew berries.
Mhm.
Humans, some humans that eat them are fine. Some humans that eat them trip their balls off, and some humans that eat them die. So you, nobody chows down on yew berries.
Mm.
I would recommend that we accept or eat nothing in this place that we do not purchase or that is not freely given to us.
that seems wise.
Sounds wise, yes.
You you emerge into a somewhat familiar sight in the area between the yew trees and the crown. To your left, there is a great shallow black lake. And to your right, there's a park dotted with trees that looks extremely familiar. There are stones, teaching stones, littering the lake. And they all seem covered in very visible writing, and you can make out snatches of sort of admonitions and wise sayings and like exhortations that you don't quite understand without maybe going and studying them from the stones. And there is an enormous black swan floating in the lake. And she turns and regards you with curious eyes over her pale beak. I wondered what the ravens were quawking and going on about. It's guests, I see, which they did not evidently feel the need to inform us about. My goodness. I do apologize for our lack of ceremony and hardly even a single welcome, much less the 1,000th that I am certain that the Queen would want all of us to have heaped upon visitors of such rank and station who came to this place. She's sort of floating in that magic-y swan, how do they move kind of way toward you.
Is it strange to us that the creatures are talking?
Totally, yeah, it's a little bizarre.
I mean, is that something that happens?
No. Yes. Yes. No. Yes. Here. Yes. Yes. Here. Yes. No. Yes.
All right.
Thinking for a minute, it's like, Carrie, you're hearing animals? Really?
Damn it! I shouldn't have had one of those berries.
Oh my God, I've been eating them like popcorn for the last half hour.
I look down and my hand is completely stained with berry juice. Oh no!
Hmm.
Your welcome is enough, and is received kindly. Thank you.
I bid you welcome to the crown of the kingdom of the morning, and by dark water and green grass and fresh light, I pledge you passage and safety should your intent prove to the benefit of the kingdom of the morning.
We hope
I am
it shall.
called Ishan.
Goshen. Greetings. Is the queen available?
The queen is here, indeed, and certain I am that she would want to see you. She is, as she ever is, at the labors of her magic, holding back the dark kings.
I'd hoped that we might be able to help her with that.
You have I hope I am not to offend, but I am one of those who bears the sight, and I see that there is hurt upon your shadows, and a strangeness as well. And I somehow wonder if you have been accosted by the white strangers.
Seems true.
We have.
Indeed.
Who are they? And why do they look like the god of death?
All the gods have gone. We don't know, but they have come many years upon the kingdom, and they take the fruitful and the innocent, and they turn them against the bold and the wise, and attempt to steal from the kingdom the brilliance and the magic that are its greatest resources.
So, in a way, they are a sort of death.
I would, if it would be no hardship in the telling, know how you came to be free of them. For all the others I have seen with their stains upon their shadows have been dead already.
The sorceress was helpful in that. She
I believe you spoke a word of shattering, did you not?
I broke their blade, or I broke one blade, and then the others. Am I dead?
You are very much alive to my sight, so far as I can tell.
Hmm.
Are you seeing beyond the veil?
When I called on my power and I broke the blade, death was helping me.
Is my jaw still numb and problematic? I was touched by one of them.
We were warned. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And yet you seem hale and whole. Although there is something.
We were warned by our shadows to run before the story, she corrects herself, catches us. And then we were approached by a woman named Runda in the market who seemed to be a member of the Yellow Sisters. The guard said that they tell stories.
She said yellow strangers.
Mhm.
And as you just spoke to us of the white strangers, I wonder if there is some connection or similarity. Why are they all strangers?
Because they come from somewhere else. Because you are strangers.
and the women do not live here then, or they're of somewhere else.
A stranger can choose to be a stranger or can be made a stranger by not being accepted.
I would ask if it would not be a hardship for you not to speak that name here again. The yellow strangers they have become strange. They serve in some way we do not understand. The friend of the Wolf King. Sometimes we call him the Yellow King. It is both easiest and most dangerous to speak of these things here beside the crown. I see that you have all come bearing gifts for the Queen to help her with her struggle.
We have.
Hi.
Your aid is timely and most welcome. She, for some reason, glances up at the clear blue sky and then back at you. But I am only a poor servant of the Queen, and I have taken enough of your illustrious time. You can find your way through the crown and into the tree. She will be, I expect, somewhere among its lookouts and boughs. She does much of her magic of the morning in its highest branches. And she uses her magic to push back the kings from lookouts that will be unmistakable to you, as you have the look of magic about you yourselves. If you find her sleeping, I ask only that, if it would not be too much to ask, that you wake her with a kiss, King Abutalon.
I am not given to forcing intimacy upon a woman in an unaware state.
Everyone knows that the kiss of the Sunlands is a gift. None would refuse it.
As the ocean will refuse no river.
May the morning hold you in the hollow of its breath. And by that invisible magic of swans, she gracefully turns and glides back out among the dark water. You can see her glide up to one of the teaching stones, and it looks like one of the sides of it is blank. And she turns and begins scraping her pale beak along it. And you can see that she's rubbing off disturbingly the end of the left side of her beak and making some new writing down along the stone.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Can we make out what she's writing?
Looks like she's starting with the word stranger. Do you wait and watch her work?
I'll wait for the second word.
Strangers are and as she starts the first letter, which is an F, she stops sort of self-consciously and kind of turns to look at you, unconsciously forming the half or the broken heart of a single swan with her neck. And she just regards you like you just caught her pooping in public or something.
I bowed deeply.
What are the other writings around it on the other sides? Put the flip. Can I figure out context?
The other side of this stone you can see says the heart guarded is hopeless.
Mm.
I think she's writing down what I told her.
I bow apologetically to her and continue onwards.
She sort of bobs, staying in the kind of surprise half heart of a swan until you make your way out across the grass onto one of the crushed granite paths.
Mm.
As if in a dream, Kiara, you make your way up the familiar staircase and through the familiar but now empty interior of the dome. There are many cunning chambers inside the earthwork. There are small paneled rooms like the carvings out of the heart of a tree. Maybe they're carvings out of great roots, who could say? There are many tapestries hanging, half seen, depicting great deeds and heroes and old kings in their knotwork. But the way through the dome is indicated by an unbroken line of lit wax candles, just set in a path along the open and closing spaces of the cunning interior of the dome. And at the end of the line of candles, you reach a staircase, and which is carved this time obviously out of the great root of a tree. It's come down, and you have a feeling that you're like at the center of the dome. And there are steps carved cunningly in a spiral pattern around the outside of the root. And there are obviously places where like there's like a consistent handhold in the twisted roots on the inner side, so you can place a hand there for your secure passage and mount the steps. Kiara, you have never been here before, but you know this isn't really here, or this wasn't here, or something. And you can feel that kind of little oily kind of slipping away as you think it. And then you're like, no, I came here from Kahal and I was sent to help the queen because she's the one that brought back the sun, and and beat back the storms and the darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other two see me pause momentarily on the steps, but with a kind of a shake of her head, she continues. Are either of you having some... Never mind.
Yes. I am having some nevermind. I don't feel quite real.
None of us partook of the Uberry, right?
None of us did.
There was
The fried
maybe
potato
it
was
just in
something,
the
though.
air.
Strange.
There are children's tales of animals that talk and of great woven trees and beautiful queens fighting darkness. And I feel as if I am walking through one of these tales. It should feel stranger than it does.
With that, you come out of the darkness you've been in, and you realize at some point you passed out of the dome and into the living wood of the tree itself. And you come out into an area where there's a small platform, and you're dazzled by the partly seen face of the sun, burning with a brilliant, pure yellow white. And for a moment, Hope, as you sort of blink your eyes, you have the after image of like where there should be a circle or the sun is still only partly risen, but where there should be a cut off disc, floating in pieces in your vision, having scanned across the sun directly as you did. It's all after images of lips.
How could the sun still not be risen? It feels like this is a long time has passed since the sun started rising.
Yep.
Does that seem odd to me or no?
It does. And then
It doesn't.
And then you know that Queen Aya brought back the sunrise out of the darkness. And it's sunrise now.
Right.
There's a sort of a combination earthen bulwark. You're like just above the top of the dome, and there's sort of a bulwark up under, and there's some of the large lower branches of the yew tree have splayed out here, and there's a large platform, and there's a small pavilion off to one side, standing empty, but it looks like someone was started to prepare for a party and quit halfway through. There are pennants half raised, and there are sort of merry strings of cranberries partly hung. And as your eyes adjust to the light, you can see that you can see down and east across the city over the kind of shining brilliance of the bog where the old market was. and into the green rolling plains, and even in the far distance you can make out the clean blue line of the Dilitham, the God's Flood River, where it flows into a lush green forest called the God's Wood. And interestingly, on the other side of that, all along the ground and then out all the way to the sun from there are just like roiling black clouds. And there doesn't seem to be anybody here.
He whispers over to the king. Is it just me, or does this feel more like a menagerie than a palace?
It is not just you.
It's nice, though.
As
There's a
you,
lot less people and bowing and scraping and, people threatening to stab people. I like it here.
As you turn back to the tree, you can see that the staircase continues first inside, and then as the boughs narrow on the outside of the central boughs, and you can see that there are two more large platforms built out of woven branches and hung from above by cunning works of vines. And you can see up in the next one that faces north, that there's a white crowned eagle staring down at you from the branches. Not one of the Avai, not one of the eagle folk, but an eagle. It would be too far. You would have to shout quite loudly if this eagle talks like the other things have talked.
2 out of 2 ain't bad odds for a third one.
So do you climb the stair? Do you mess with the pavilion? What do you do?
I think the pavilion sounds like a good start.
Okay. As you move back to go back inside, you catch a glimpse from somewhere up above that something in the highest branches of the tree is sort of glimmering and radiant, as if with light caught from the rising sun.
And that would be Her Majesty. Must we climb, do you think?
Oh, so the staircase continues. Inside and then outside the boughs as the tree narrows.
It's thoughtful of them to have stairs for those without wings.
You ascend?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you stop at the other platforms, or do you just sort of whatever and go all the way to the top, or what do you do?
What's on the other platforms?
So the next platform is several revolutions around, and you peek out, and it looks like this was an armory at one point, but there's only like weapon and armor stands mostly, and there's a few pieces of it looks like people have worked on things, but all of the weapons and armor are gone. And on the nearby branch, the white crowned eagle sort of looking at you as you approach. As you kind of look out further, you again can see very clearly out and down. You're looking back north, back toward the kind of bustle of the new market. And then you can see houses and homesteads and green fields dotted with clusters of the perfect white knots of fluffy sheep. And then in the near distance, a massively tall dark forest looms, and somewhere in the forest there's a tree burning with an almost butter yellow light, and just looking at it, you sort of shiver and feel a little greasy, and you're pretty sure you can hear words coming from that direction, or like
singing or something.
I'm going to listen closely to that sound.
Okay.
I think me too.
as well.
What you thought was maybe the crackling of fires, you think now is maybe like drums, like far distant drums. And there does seem to be a deep voice singing or chanting, and you can't quite make it out. And then there's one refrain that you can hear clearly, and then it sort of fades back out into audibility, almost like the sound was sort of turning towards you and then turning away again. And the one part you can hear is a deep and somehow tired sounding voice saying or singing, "Come rain, come sun, come morn, come all of us." And then it sort of fades back into an inaudible murbling. And then if you wait, it sort of comes around again. Come rain, come sun, come dawn, come all of us. And then,
So it's like a repeating chant.
yeah.
All right. Very well. I think we can
definitely-
continue up.
I definitely wouldn't stand there all day listening to that, says the eagle.
Oh,
What are you listening to instead?
Well, I'm listening for the Bandit King. But I'm also listening to the gossips in the garden.
anything juicy?
What are you listening to?
Abudulon puts out his arms to either side and his robes spread wide, and a rich scent of eucalyptus and cinnamon fills the air. To this,
Is that what you brought for the queen? The smell of far away? I'm not sure she'll like that. And then the eagle's round eyes narrow, and he's looking at you like prey.
at Abudulon? Oh.
No, without moving or anything,
Mhm.
but you can see his massive yellow feet where they've made indentations in the wood with their gripping.
Our gifts are here to honor your hospitality, she says, with a little bit of an edge.
Abudulon curls his hands into fists and looks at the other two as if to say, do the same.
She doesn't, but when she says the word hospitality, she's making eye contact with the eagle.
Disturbingly, one of the eagle's eyes stays fixed on Abudulon, and the other one swivels toward you.
You have a little bit of a sense of like rabbit exposed on the lake shore. But the eagle doesn't do anything.
How far are we from the eagle at this point?
Maybe 5 or 6 paces across the armory.
Where is the queen? Kara asks.
Sleeping.
We were told to wake her. One of us was, anyways.
Mhm.
Is that the swan then?
Yes.
Interesting. Kiara, you've never met a talking eagle before, but you've met this person before.
I don't know what to do with that, but okay.
Okay. The eagle makes no hostile move, so if you don't have any more conversation, it just watches you go with its separately motile eyes. And you go back into the now you transition to a staircase on the outside of the tree.
Does if you don't mind me asking, you said I know this person. What do I know this person?
You don't know. You're just like there's a.
Is there a feeling of friendliness, hostility?
No, that threat is familiar.
Okay.
You know that threat. But it's like you couldn't say why.
Mm-hmm. Do I feel like the eagle is that something is protecting us from that threat, or the
No.
eagle is choosing not to act on that threat?
Yeah, just choosing to be nakedly threatful.
Okay. Sorry.
As if to communicate something, sitting in the empty armory.
Mm-hmm.
To their kind, this is a threat because it is an open talon. This is not a threat.
As you begin to move away, the eagle turns its head and looks away. Out over the field, toward the forest.
I feel like this is something that goes beyond. I'm saying this quietly enough that it's just for us. Well, probably not, because consider it's hearing, but I don't care. I say, I don't think this. I think that my unsettlement has less to do with its kind than from this one. I know him, she says distantly.
I have learned that it is well to meet people where they are and what they are at any given time.
I would rather know who I'm meeting first and where they're standing.
As if to punctuate that, somewhere far away, you hear the mournful cry of a wolf.
Well, shall we go rabbiting up the stairs then?
The The third platform, your heart, if it could, would leap directly out of your chest, Kiara. The third platform seems to be a library. There are many drawings and tapestries and tables and chairs, and there are scrolls and books and tomes. And it's a little dark here because the blue sky, which up to this point has been so clear and pale, like a baby's blue eye, is now mottled with darkness, like shadows cast by clouds you can't see. And it isn't the dappling of the leaves. The yew leaves are casting shadows and making a sort of green haven of their own. But this is the sky itself. And as you look, you realize it's as if the blue sky, the light of the dome of heaven, is filtering down through a vast shadowed knotwork that you can't quite see.
Is the sun still rising?
Yep, it's behind you. You're looking west, and it's behind the bulk of the tree. But the long spill of light across the green lands is the same.
Is the tree casting a massive shadow?
Yes, a massive pale shadow, and impossibly, the shadow of the tree is so long that it stretches all the way to the west, across the plains of Tuhal, to the river, to the Afon Kill, the river that bounds the western edge of Tuhal, and at the tip of the tree's shadow lies just on the distant blue-gray river, and just on the other side of it is the black arch of the wall of night.
Mm-hmm.
I think
And so
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to just say, and so wordlessly, you return to the stairs.
I think that I feel at first a pull of curiosity to the vast tomes and the scrolls, and then as if driven by something else, I scan the titles.
They're all odd. They're one-word titles, and they're like the names of animals. There's a big dark tome titled Night. There's a big kind of slender folio titled Day.
Are they in alphabetical order?
No, they're sort of leaning on shelves and sat around and on chairs and tables, and there are a bunch of there are a bunch of tomes with like the names of particular trees that seem to have the leaves of the trees as covers.
None of them have any of the names of the gods on them, do they?
No, there isn't anything abstract. Well,
I
unless you think night and day are abstract.
look for one that says dawn.
Yeah, make a search. Make an investigate roll.
How many tags am I using?
2.
Sorry. Oh, don't ignore that. I'm not cheating.
Well, 30. I think with a result of 30 on 2 dice, you become the Don.
Yeah, well.
Um,
9.
so, would you like to be exposed to danger or to get fuzzy answers?
Danger.
Danger, danger. On a small, thin branch, hanging well out from the edge of the platform, you see the folio titled Dawn in gold, with gold writing down the spine, and it sort of cracked open and hung across the branch as though some small person were laying out their reading and was done and just turned it over to save their place.
If only I could speak to books rather than read them. I look over at Hope. Do you think you could help me with a small favor?
I can. What would you like help with?
She kind of tilts her head very slightly towards the book out on the branch.
So one thing Hope actually has is he has a walking staff with him. So I think he could kind of nudge the book up and try and send it to you.
Okay. So I think we'll call that a face danger.
A what?
Face danger.
Okay. I do have my pole, the stick that I'm using.
Okay.
And
Resource.
and then I have my physical conditioning, so I think I get a +2.
And agile. Agile.
Well, agile is actually like one of the subcategories of the physical conditioning, so I think it's still just 2.
Well, the broad tag counts as 1, and then the specific tag counts as 2, right?
No, you can't use the name of the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
Sure. That's good.
Can I help by holding his hand so that he can reach further?
With using the pole, it's not danger to himself; it's danger to the book. So he won't fall.
I'm sure the queen won't mind if we knock her book into the abyss. Seven. Okay.
Okay. So he reaches out with the pole and kind of starts sliding the book back along and tries to then get the pole underneath it, and I think the folio only in loosely bound starts to come apart around the pole, and he flicks the first part of it back onto the platform, and the other part begins to fall, but instead of tumbling down among the branches,
it tumbles straight away from you, rapidly reaching massive velocity and vanishes into the distant wall of night.
Wow.
And the distant wall of night shudders, and it inches closer. Incongruously, you just get the cover of the folio titled Dawn, and there's a sort of simplistic, like a golden line, with a half thing with the front. And on the inside of the folio, it's like somebody just put on lipstick and kissed the inside of the folio over and over again.
Huh.
With what the kisses are, what, lipstick or?
Yeah,
What
it
are
smells
they?
like waxy lip gloss kind of stuff, waxy lip, and it's pink.
Okay.
Like coral colored.
Interesting.
So do you leave it there or take it with you?
If that's all I see, I actually leave it here.
Yeah, please set it back down. Do you hide it so it's like, we didn't do that?
Yeah,
That was
I put it
there
back in
the whole time.
in one of the bookshelves.
Okay, great. So you continue around the staircase, and you reach the top, and are confronted by a most magical sight. There are sort of two platforms that the yew tree has made. On the one to your right, there is a white winged horse. It has a sort of golden hawser with fine rope around its neck and under its mouth. And it seems to have been shod with bright brass horseshoes. And it raises its large eyelashed eyes and tosses its blazing white in the dawn light, complicatedly braided mane, and regards you with large lashed eyes. And then on the platform to the left, you see that the giant yew tree has produced a massive yew flower, which is the precursor to growing the yew berries, the berries of memory. And asleep on the yew flower is a 10-year-old girl. Her slightly auburn hair cascading just off the edge. Somehow, incongruously, up here at the top of the tree, the city below you is far away and small, and the people are below the size of ants and invisible. But you can very clearly make out to the north the dark wood, and to the west the great wall of night, and above you the black shadowed knotwork darkening the sky, and to the east the infinite roiling storm boiling out beyond the river. To the dawn.
I glance sideways at King Abudulon.
A sleeping queen.
or one that does her work in that position. If we weren't supposed to wake her, wouldn't there be some sort of guard?
I believe we have passed many such guards.
Well, perhaps I could stir her. And I think he pulls out of his robes. He has like a panpipe.
I grab Hope by the shoulder and pull him back.
Okay.
No,
I go forward and lightly brush my lips across the queen's forehead.
Okay. As you press your the fresh ruby lips of a king of the sunlit lands to the south across her forehead, warmth runs through her skin, color returns to her cheeks, the pallid paleness of the backs of her hands flush into summer vibrance. Her vaguely auburn hair ignites and becomes luminous, almost impossibly flame red hair. And she blinks open clear blue eyes and sits up. Hello, I'm Aya. I'm the queen. Who are you?
I am a
we'll stop there.
Voodalon, a king.
Wait, I think we'll stop there
Okay.
since we're past time.
Mm.
Alrighty. Well, I know that was very strange. I hope it contained some delight.
Mhm.
So geeking out during the credits. What did you like about the new selves that your fellow storytellers donned, or what did you like about the way that they struggled or accepted the world?
I wanted to say that one of the things I enjoyed most was when Hope was kind of reenacting the same dynamic between Cecile and Kian, between Kiara and Hope, with that sort of like questioning about being from another land and this sort of same bemused exasperation. I thought that was a nice kind of loop.
Callback.
Yeah, I
I did
enjoyed
like that they were different cultures, and yet like the personalities of the characters,
Right.
even like time and distance removed, were similar. I liked the king and kind of the aura that he had as he kind of went through and kind of dealt with everything.
That was a beautiful
cool.
puzzle box.
So, yeah.
And
Or
imagining the king, I decided to make him a king that wins by accepting. Which, of course, could end tragically. It could. I love that John's character changed gender, and retained the curious, skeptical, slightly arm's length manner.
It must be a Gallagher thing.
It's cool. And Matthew, I feel like I think John touched on this a little bit. I feel like you've been playing a dual character, and that creates moments of humor and beauty. And I think you've captured the same humor and beauty in this
Oh, thank you.
in this monk that is just walking around in the world and jumping in with both feet.
Mm-hmm.
Quite cool.
You haven't seen his more serious side as much either, too. So I think that'll be kind of fun
Mm-hmm.
to see. Because so far he's fought and he's explored, but you haven't seen him work yet, which I think will be kind of fun.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful stuff. Very enjoyable.
All right.
I also very much enjoyed Dale the way King Abutalon like was cognizant of the dissonance of the world, but not flummoxed by it.
Right.
Whereas like it kind of has a different kind of approach than Kiara, who's like trying to reconcile or
Right.
trying to
Figure it out.
resolve
Mhm.
that contradiction, and that was an interesting contrast.
Yeah, it's
I
kind
like
of
that
fun that
King
all three
Abutalon was,
characters had a different view.
yeah.
Your character seemed to accept it. John's character tried to understand it. And my character tried to sort of play with it.
Mm-hmm. Learn about it by interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really rich. Really nice.
Delightful. Well, thank you for joining us for episode 7, part 2 of the Spiral.
Awesome.
Marriage of Serpents, Archon story. Have a good one.
Hey.
All right. Awesome.